but now you're at Klaviyo building a brand new type of product that's never been invented before. I'm not a developer, and all of a sudden I built this super complex dashboard with a couple of tools and a few prompts. Boom, click send, and it sends it out. And then it does, because historically, as an agency, we're not going to go and do something like that because it might make the company.
We'll be able to take the intelligence of Composer, the AI that we built, and distribute it across the AI. This is Klaviyo's intelligence highlighting things to you at any time, right when you're sort of thinking about it.
Gil, this happens every time that we talk. I feel like the time just flies by and we're just scratching the surface. But this was very exciting about sort of what's coming. I am very excited for today's episode. We have Gil Hsu, Senior Product Manager from Klaviyo, joining us today. And Gil is the man behind leading product on Klaviyo's biggest new release, which is Composer. Gil, welcome to the show.
Hey, Zach. That's quite the intro. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Always fun chatting with you, and I'm glad that we can do it in podcast format this time.
Yeah, I am as well. And I think a lot of the stuff too that you're able to share, it's going to be great for everybody listening to this, both on the brand side and the agency side, to really get a look into your mind, in building Composer, like for what it took to get it to where it is today, and where you see it going in the future.
Yeah, really excited about this chat. I mean, obviously for all things Composer and Klaviyo, it's like the sort of the next evolution of how we think about marketing. But just generally sort of excited to have this conversation, do a little peek behind the curtain, show what we have a little bit coming up next. And yeah, I think it's going to be a good chat.
Awesome. Before we dive in too much, could you give us a little bit of background about yourself, where you were before Klaviyo and how you ended up leading product at Klaviyo?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so I actually have like a very winding resume, as you could say. Prior to doing product, I was an engineer for several years, doing anything from like identity tech to health tech, all in like the Boston area. And then even before that, I had a previous career in design, building mostly commercial architecture. So I was an architect. And the funny story that I always tell people is that the Klaviyo headquarters office in Boston actually designed that as the architect. But at the time it was a different company. And since then Klaviyo has like changed all the designs. So now that I work here, all the views are the same, but all my designs have since been demoed. So it's a bittersweet moment to be coming back into this office. But yeah, so I've been all over the map in terms of sort of the Trinity skill set, design, engineering, and now product. But yeah, very happy to kind of be in this product space now. It's definitely the right fit for me.
That is very interesting. About the build. I mean, your background in general, but about the building, and now you're at Klaviyo. It's kind of interesting too, right? So you designed the building, but a lot of the stuff that you designed, they knocked down. But now you're at Klaviyo building a brand new type of product that's never been invented before.
Yeah, different kind of building for sure. It was funny though, because as an architect, I did mostly commercial architecture, so that was my focus. So I built mostly offices for people, and I built a lot of tech offices in Boston. I'd always jokingly say that I was the bridesmaid, never the bride. I'd be designing these really cool tech offices, but then I'd be in architecture designing the next one. And then on my move into tech, I actually got to really enjoy all the spoils that tech brings in terms of like the working space. And now I get to be in this space, building the next generation of really cool products, especially for marketing tech, which is a really interesting place to be for sure.
Yeah, it sure is. All right. So for anybody who doesn't know what Composer is, could you give us, I guess, the high level overview of what Composer is and what the goals are of Klaviyo and of you with building Composer?
Sure. So the high level cliff notes on Composer is that it's a first party in-app AI that's built by Klaviyo. And the idea is that it's directly integrated into your account. It knows your account data. It knows context about marketing in general that we have trained the AI on. And it's basically this consultant built-in knowledge base that You can ask any question at any time. Never gets annoyed that you ask so many questions about marketing or your program. And it's just there for you as you need to build out anything related to marketing about your program, and then also specifically about like how Klaviyo does marketing actions. So first party built AI by the Klaviyo product team. And then if we're talking about just the sort of what are some of the goals that we're trying to accomplish with Composer, at the highest level, we just know that marketing is a complex process, right? So you're an agency and you do this at scale, and people come to you because marketing's hard and you know how to do it well. And so for a lot of, I think, people that may not know marketing principles as well, all the way to people that have very complex marketing programs, there's a lot of nuance within how the operations of marketing work. So it could be, how to configure your automations or your flows, all the way down to like the best ways to set up a subject line for an email or times to send out different campaigns. They're all really opinionated insights or information that guide the success of your marketing program. And the thing is that it's very easy to, I don't know if make a mistake is the right way of framing it, but there's just so many ways where you could optimize further for any of these marketing choices, either something so small as images and color, all the way to what audience to select. And so there's just a lot of complexity within marketing, and we wanted to bring in AI to again, not only entrepreneurs but also enterprise customers that could give guidance and expertise and further optimize programs of all sizes.
And you guys have what, about 200,000 e-comm brands on your platform, and so that's a lot of data, which is just amazingly powerful. Right now, so if I'm using Composer, if I'm a brand, I'm using Composer inside of my Klaviyo account. Right now, the suggestions that it gives me, how unique are they to me, my brand, my industry?
Yeah, so there are a few different like layers of context. If you played around with AI at all, you know that context is the game. You want to be able to give AI a particular lens of information in order for it to provide you information that's bespoke and useful to you. And so for Klaviyo, there's a few different layers that you kind of just hit on. So one is like we have information about your brand context. This is information that we either gathered when we were doing onboarding with you, or that you've provided in one of the sort of setting areas of Klaviyo that you can describe like what your brand is and the things that you care about. So that's like one layer that we have that's like we consider a first party information. Then we have account level context, which is all the marketing objects you have there, all the brand assets like imagery, colors, fonts, etc. These are all the sort of pieces of marketing data that live specifically in your account. And then the last layer is the aggregate anonymized data that we have across those 200,000 brands that we serve. And so we collectively understand the sort of benchmarking and usage patterns across all of those 2,000 brands sliced by industry. And so as Composer has a task of getting you a particular recommendation or some sort of optimization concept, it'll be able to pull through each of these layers and then give you recommendations and context that's specific for you.
Great. That is a very clear way of explaining that. How are you seeing brands using it right now? And is there anything about how they're using it that is surprising you? Like you weren't thinking that they were going to be using it that way. You're like, oh, that's pretty cool.
So yeah, now that we are in public beta, I'm super excited about the growth of the usage since we launched on June 30th. So we're in the sort of tens of thousands of brands that have been using Composer within the first 30 days, which is amazing. And through that, we've seen like a lot of different patterns. Now we've been testing this with a private beta group for quite a while, for the last few months. And some of the patterns that we've seen largely hold true, right? So we know that like Flows, which is our automation tool, is a pretty complex feature. And the ability to understand exactly what every automation does, and then how each automation stacks on top of each other, is an area of like a lot of opacity in terms of understanding how the program works. So for that, we've like built in tooling into Composer, which we call flows auditing, which just allows you to basically get sort of flexible understanding of what your automation program is doing. So you could see whether or not like you have flows that overlap each other. Maybe people are going down multiple flows at a single time, or maybe you have configuration issues. Like it notices that almost entirely people are going down the yes path and nobody's going down the no path. That's probably a logic problem. And so it's able to triage all of this sort of signal across your entire automations program in just a single button click and a few seconds of processing time. So that has been, in the early days in the private beta, the most popular feature. It still is the most popular feature now. But what has been really exciting is that really what debuted at public beta was the ability to generate campaigns. It was like a little bit nascent, like prior to 6:30, but really at 6:30 we announced it and people got to use it. And that has been super exciting to see how brands are just using natural language to say, I want a campaign that does this, that leverages this segment, and give me like 2 different variations for email versus SMS. And you can do that all through just speaking in natural language, and you're actually getting the outputs of that. So that has been, we knew that people would want to do it, but we didn't really know to what capacity. And now that it's available, seeing that people actually generate and send and make money from campaigns via Composer has been pretty cool.
Yeah, it is awesome. Are you able to share any type of revenue lift that you're seeing brands make?
So I can't share exactly the revenue lift. What I will say though is that in these early days of sort of the features that are available in Composer, it's largely around sort of value for time. So the thinking is that, a lot of these decisions, a lot of these like processes to either creating a campaign, let's say creating multiple variations of a campaign to different segments and so forth, this, historically took a lot of thought, took a lot of coordination, took a lot of manual effort. And so now, because we have this ability to understand, the prompt context and then build different variations for each channel type, different audiences that you've already got pre-configured, there's a lot of time savings for doing either equivalent or more output, right? So partly it's that you're going to sort of gain more sort of output for your time. And then the other sort of like raw numbers is that people are like genuinely making money from campaigns that Composer created. And we also have sort of like an internal metric, which we call no edits or no notes. And it's basically Composer did an output and the user didn't ask for any further changes. They just basically saved it and then sent it. And then it made money of it. And so there's a growing number of these no note campaigns, which is pretty cool, which means that we like understood the job, right? We understood the context of your account. We understood what you were trying to accomplish. And it was good enough for you to feel like, yeah, let's go ahead and send it. And that's ultimately where we want to get to. We want to get to like as many of these sort of no note campaigns as possible.
As an agency, getting to no feedback campaigns from clients is always a wonderful thing as well. So yeah. I can relate to that.
Good to go.
Yeah. So a couple of the things that you're talking about, as coming from the agency perspective, I have really strong opinions about it. And, I've been talking to a lot of other agencies in the space, and, there's really a couple different ways that you can look at it. But I personally am super excited about everything that you guys are creating with Composer and with Customer Agent, with all the AI tools that you're doing. But it's changing drastically what e-comm agencies look like. And it will change. Like for instance, the flow audits that you talked about. For anybody who has never audited the flows, this can be like a big task. Like for instance, this may a client that we're managing on an ongoing basis. It may be a quarterly task where we go and we audit all of their flows, and it's nothing sexy. It's not exciting. One of our strategists has to go in and audit all their flows, and it takes a lot of time. But it's impactful work, but it's not like high level work. And so, like, there's two ways to look at this from the agency perspective. One is that, hey, you're taking away this work. The other one is, wow, this is awesome. You're freeing up the work so that this can happen on a continuous basis so that I can now spend more time on higher level strategy, revenue impacting things.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's exactly right. And um, I think most people probably fall in one of these two categories. One is just like, they see it as a one for one of the work that they're doing. And then others see it as like, oh, this is work I was never really that interested in doing anyway. Now I don't have to do it. What would I then spend my time otherwise, right? And so I think like the analogy that we have for like in R&D, just generally with these large like frontier models, is that a lot of the people like myself are builders by heart. We want to be building things, and now that we have tooling that can sort of code on its own, we now have the ability to do a lot more output. We see a lot more different things, be more strategic, and say these are the things that I would really want to build if I had unlimited resources. And yesterday I couldn't, and now I can. Right. And so if you take that and you parlay that to marketing and what Composer is doing, it's a very similar thought process, right? I believe that for agencies, right, your real value is not the fact that you know where all the settings and buttons are of like what makes how the system works, the sort of lever pulling piece of the job, or the sort of brute force for you to like look at 100 different flows and say, okay, here's the analysis or the overlay on top of them. Your value, I believe, I think you would agree, is around the strategy about why you do those things, right? So while you could maybe only afford both in the customer appetite for cost as well as your just like labor cost of doing one audit, let's say a quarter, right? Now you can do an audit every week. Like you can be as nimble, as flexible as you want to be. It's really more of like, at what point do you have meaningful data back? And so what does that mean for like how you then can spend time? Well, I think we kind of alluded to it, is that means that you can spend more time being strategic. If you have the ability to say, I'm going to, if it took before a few hours to create one email variant, and now you can create, 10 email variants in a minute, then how does that change the way you think about how many email variants you should build for each campaign? I think one would argue that like, well, now email variations are effectively free. So then maybe I can think about more of like segmentation and customizing content and being more narrow in terms of who I target, right? This requires like a next level strategic thinking that you couldn't afford before, when you could only spend enough time or the client could only pay for one or two email variants per campaign, right? Now you can give them 10 or 20 and you can sort of dream up whatever you have in your mind of like, oh, I should want to try these different experiments to these different groups. So I think agencies are going to find a lot more freedom with how they can activate different strategies that they wish they could always do. Just like what I said, like I wish I could build these projects that I could never do before. Now you can do that. And so I think I hope that agencies see that this is a real unlock. I think we've had conversations about this before. I think you see it this way for sure. But yeah, the normal work of the day-to-day kind of lever pulling grunt type work, I think changes and allows you to do much more interesting things.
Yeah. I think it's important for agencies and for everyone to know what's happening. You can about AI, you can say whatever you want to say. It doesn't, whatever your opinion is, like broader of AI, it doesn't really matter because it's happening. And so as a business, I don't care what business you're in, if you're, marketing agency or you're in manufacturing, whatever the business is, if you put your blinders on and if you ignore it, a year, 2 years from now, you're gone. You're done. There's not going to be a playground for you to play in anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely like high level agree. I would say the other side of it is like, you've just been given this sort of like unlimited, like incredibly flexible like cheat code, right? And so it's like, do you want it or do you not want it, right? Like I think you should take it, like figure out like how to use it, right? And so I think that's a really exciting time for people to lean in and again just like do things that you just otherwise couldn't do before.
Yeah. Yeah. The way I described it before, that sounded like gloom and doom. That is not what I meant at all. You know, and I think there's two ways to look at it. You can look at it. One is doom and gloom, or the other way is exactly what you said. Holy cow! Here is this cheat code that I have access to, where I can now do things that I could never do before. I built this sales dashboard about a month ago, and I pulled in data sources from about 10 different data sources. It's for like our internal sales dashboard. And I built this awesome sales dashboard. I am not a developer, and I built it all inside of Lovable, and I use Claude some to do it. And the sales dashboard it's super powerful, and now it's like the first thing that I look at when I open up my computer. But I was thinking about it. If I would have built this a year ago, I would have paid 25, 30, 35 grand to get this thing built, and it probably would have taken three times the amount of my time just to answer questions, working with the developers, and then fixing things that were coming out how I didn't want to do it. So like, I think that's when I first had my like aha moment, like when I was able to create that thing, because it was just mind blowing what you could do. Like that was like a cheat code. I'm not a developer, and all of a sudden I built this super complex dashboard with a couple of tools and a few prompts.
Yeah, for sure. So I think like what's interesting is like there's like a few different ways to think about the economics, right? You have the economics of like outputs, which are clearly changed, right? Like whether it's an app, a dashboard, a report, an audit, these are all outputs. The economics of that is like AI basically pushes that to almost zero. It takes almost no cost to put that out, just the token cost. And then you would say, okay, well, then the economics of like thinking also has changed, right? To pay a person to think about a process for how to build the thing, that has also changed, right? Because now Claude can just think about, oh, what are all the steps that like a senior developer would think about in order to build the thing? That is also like compressed in cost, right? So now when you're talking about economics, where is the real value? It's actually thinking about, well, how do you activate the AI or AIs to be doing these things at scale agentically, let them run on their own. That's really where the sort of the thought value now comes from. And I think again, e-comm marketing agencies, there's a lot of value to be gained there, just thinking about how would I build all the automations for all these things.
Yeah. Um, did you, or you definitely had this moment, but do you remember what your aha moment was with agentic coding and with AI when you're like, holy cow, like we're on this we're in this brand new space?
Yeah, I think for me, probably was a little bit different than others. I'm a big like voice to text person, or like or dictation, right? And so I think it was early days when ChatGPT actually introduced the voice feature, where it could respond in voice, right? And it was really funny. There's a few different like voice personalities that you could choose back. So you were basically like, what friend do I want to choose, right? In this process. And that was the first aha. I thought like, in the beginning, chat was a little bit more like, oh, it's kind of like a different way of doing Google search, or like kind of like I could give it some of my writing and it would kind of mirror it, but still early days, it wasn't so good. But I think the first time that I was actually able to speak to the AI, and it would speak back to me, was like, oh, okay, there's something really novel here, where like it feels like it is bringing on its own thoughts and considerations, and I as a person feel like I'm engaging with something that's not just an intake thing like a computer, like a Word doc or something equivalent. It feels like there's something being given to me as well. And so that was the first like kind of aha of how AI could just change the way that not only you work but interact with technology. And so now I mostly do all of my interaction with Claude through dictation using products like Whisperflow. I'm just waiting for like the sort of nexus of remote control to my server plus 11 labs and all these things to come back, so that it becomes like a super AI that I can just talk to. Or if like Siri gets the like local AI right, so that it can happen really fast. The biggest problem is latency right now.
Um, I often think too, like there's these tasks that I want to give out to somebody else on my team, or maybe my EA, and I don't want to even I don't even want to take the time. Oftentimes I don't have the time to like dictate it.
Oh
And so
yeah.
I think to myself, well, oh man, this would be great if I could just like this little thread of a thought that I need done. I could just export that thread, have it expanded on, and then have it assigned out.
Yeah. Well, listen, there's all kinds of, thought to dictation stuff that is like being experimented on now. So one day soon. But
Yeah.
I'm curious, what about you? I think this is a very personal kind of moment story. I'm curious to hear yours. So what was your aha moment related to AI?
I think one of my first aha moments was when I started building things on. Well, actually, the most recent one was when I started building things on Lovable, because I was able to take concepts from my mind, connect and build them into like a usable dashboard, like an actual product that I could see, that I could interact with, and that was actually like correct and really, really valuable. That was a big aha for me. And then I think too, when I started recently, I got into Claude. I've been getting into Claude Code, and I created an ECD brain and a Zach brain. And so what I did was I imported all of my historical emails. I imported all of my Google Drive information. I imported a lot of like context about me individually, and then I had created two different brains, and now I'm able to ask questions about like how I would respond, or I'm able to like have the Zach brain craft messages to my team in my voice. That is pretty wild. In my something neat that I'm starting to do too is I do a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, and a lot of what I talk about in LinkedIn is all like current things or current things that are happening. But I have a pretty like interesting background, but I don't talk about it all that much. Like in my 20s, I lived in like 35 different countries. My first business was a mountain bike tour company in Costa Rica, and I traveled the world on a sailboat. I imported textiles from Thailand and Nepal in the U.S. But I don't ever talk about that, and so but I kept a blog while I was doing all of this stuff. And so I imported that blog into the Zach brain, and then I had it start incorporating different content, like look at what I currently talk about on LinkedIn, and have it relate to some of my historical background and how it's tying that stuff in. So that's pretty cool as well.
Helps you draft that new content based on some of that historic stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I think that is like one of the definitely like high leverage, like impact things. If you're in marketing, so marketing yourself, right? Of course, always valuable. I think about that too. What's interesting is like I set up my AI, my Claude, which also has a similar sort of context layer that you described. But I take a lot of the insights that I like learn from working here at Klaviyo, the problems that I see, or like the way to interact with either people or different technical problems, and I'm able to actually extract some of these like learnings from the conversation like AI is, and then say, this is actually would be an interesting blog post, if you took the thing that you experienced here. Let's do a draft on that. So it actually proactively scans conversations, meeting notes, all this stuff to give me blog ideas or LinkedIn post ideas, which is pretty cool.
Nice, from like stuff that you're naturally talking about or thinking
Yeah,
about.
exactly. Like I had a post related to token burn the other day where like, right now or at the time, a lot of companies were saying, hey, just unlimited budget, do whatever you want. Like we want to learn. So, and I was like, this isn't going to last forever. You should do it now. And now companies are really tightening the belt because their AI spend went wild. So yeah, that was a literal thing that came out of conversations that I was having here at Klaviyo.
Yeah. Yeah, I think budgets went wild, but I think now AI is still relatively pretty cheap.
Relatively, yeah.
I think I think it's artificially inexpensive. Whereas I think maybe in a year or 2 years we might see
Yes.
things might start to change, especially as the models get more powerful.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. More powerful, less subsidized, and your expectation for the thing goes up, right? So
Yeah.
it's coming for you.
Want to see where your e-commerce brand is leaving money on the table? Book a free revenue audit with the team at ECD Digital Strategy and get a clear plan to increase revenue. Go to klaviyo.com/ECD to schedule yours today. I'd like to talk a little bit about the creative side of things, design, graphic design, and copy. Where is Composer today as far as like a graphic design level? And when do you think it's going to get like it's going to take like that next like cliff jump to like being significantly better?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's really two pieces to this sort of like when does it get better or how does it get better question, which is a common question that like I think any AI product is going to continue to have, and even as it gets better, you'll have that question continue to go forward. So there's two pieces. One of which is, how good is the context, and then how good is the model, right? So we at Klaviyo don't build our own models. We sit on top of the large frontier LLM companies, whether their focus is on intelligence, like Anthropic, or image gen, like Gemini. We sit on top of all these different model providers, and we choose the best one for the right task. But then what we do at Klaviyo is we provide additional, what's called a harness, which is opinion about how you should use all these different models and tools for a particular goal, which in this case is marketing tech. So there's two pieces here. One is, as the models get better, we get better. So we sit on top of them. Whatever improvement that we get there, we get for free. And the other piece is like improving context. So the context can come in a few different flavors. Some of them are user provided context, things that they explicitly say, like, we care about these metrics, or these are our brand colors. These are things that they say explicitly, as well as things that we learn implicitly, like based on their behavior of whether they take recommendations, what percentage of campaign generations do they accept, other sort of like micro interactions of like, how often are they editing flows per week versus campaigns, these type of things. We learn from the user that also informs context, right? And then the context of our platform is just like, as the platform gets bigger, larger, pulls in, let's say, more integrations and different tooling, the platform also gets larger. This also increases the surface area of the context. So as each of these layers of context grow, as well as the model grows, that's how things get better. And they're not always like timed exactly right. Like, Fable 5 just came out, or not Fable 5, Opus 5 just came out. And we're sitting on top of that, as well as actually Fable Inclusive 2. That was a little bit earlier, but Fable Inclusive 2, this is part of our toolkit as well. So all of these things stack up to a better AI experience.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite model right now that you're using?
I don't know if I have a favorite model. I kind of we're very lucky here at Klaviyo. We get kind of unlimited budget to the models. So with the exception of Fable, I think Fable was just flat out too expensive for us for the moment. And so for right now, I'm doing everything on Opus 5. And that was just released a few days ago. So before that, I was on Opus 4.8. And I think at some point, like, I felt like Opus 4.6 was really a really nice sweet spot. But now I think it's kind of like too dated to use. And so I've been continuing to like push up to the newest models. But I remember, like, I think a lot of people felt this too. This is just such a nerd thing to say, that Opus 4.7 came out and was really like not as good as 4.6. And there's a lot of like people complaining about that. And I was like, yeah, I think I feel that too. not knowing whether it was like a placebo or something, but it felt like it wasn't as good. And now Opus 5 is out, and with just a couple days of usage, it does feel pretty good.
Um, your LinkedIn bio, it says something. It's not. I'm going to butcher it, but it says something like burning tokens at Klaviyo, and I love that. Do you guys have a leaderboard of like who's using the most, who's burning the most tokens?
Technically, yes, but it's actually a little bit more engineering focused than it is for the product or design side. Um, but I think like over time, like we're thinking about that lens differently. I think I always say this about like any type of leaderboards, which is like, leaderboards predate AI, right? That like, if you, depending on what you're trying to create a leaderboard for, you're going to incentivize certain things. And so, now that there's a lot of like automation built in these toolings, it's pretty easy to gamify a leaderboard like that. You just like run lots of like different cron jobs and different explorations and different, so I think that the leaderboards have become like less valuable compared to the early days when everybody's still trying to figure it out. But I think just generally, maybe the sort of bottom 30 to 40%, like you want to be kind of above that, just so that you not again to compare against anybody, but because you want those reps. Like again, you have an opportunity to like use and flex on this cheat code, and here at Klaviyo, it's free for us as employees. And so like, you really want to be using this stuff and just giving you the best opportunity to succeed.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. If there actually were leaderboards, those would be extremely simple to game.
Yeah, it was really funny. So there was inside the office here at headquarters in Boston, we have just like a Wi-Fi network, and there was always like a time I started to realize there was a pattern where like Wi-Fi got really slow. And I was complaining to our IT department. It's like, hey, what's going on here? I can't do any work. And they started to do an investigation. And it just happened to be like this person who was just running this massive, massive cron job and was taking up literally all the bandwidth from this floor, the whole floor. And we were like, oh, okay, so let's not do that. It cannot possibly be that valuable that you would like turn off Wi-Fi for all these other employees on the floor. But it was really funny to just like see that some people, again, like not necessarily for the leaderboard, but just that people, because the budget is unlimited, you just start to do these really crazy things, and as a result, like you spend a lot of tokens. And if you just happen to have a leaderboard, like this person would be at the top, but unclear whether it was like delivering like actual value as a result of that spend.
Yeah. Cool. So I want to shift a little bit. Right now, at least for the customer facing product, the other big AI product is Customer Agent that you guys have launched. That's been live for a while. And it's a really cool product. And then you have Composer, you have Customer Agent. What down the road, what does the overlap look like between these two? What's the relationship going to look like on how both of them are sort of working together? And I guess maybe like talk to me a little bit about the vision about that.
Sure. So let me set the stage a little bit, right? So Customer Agent is an AI product that we have that lives primarily on the customer facing or our customer's website, right? So the people that might actually purchased from this seller or the provider of some product, right? And so most like Customer Agent like use cases, or the ones that are most obvious, are the ability for that end purchaser to chat with an AI on the website, to answer questions and to ask, what's the status of this product or shipping of this product? What's the like ingredients list in this product? A lot of sort of like knowledge base for that company that an AI could provide answers to. So this is a sort of like normal pretty foundational level one like use case, right? And so there are a lot of different, AI provider of chatbots that can kind of do a similar utility. The thing that makes, customer agent really unique and why Klaviyo has invested a lot of money into serving this for our customers is that it provides a entirely new avenue for signal on that customer. So when a customer is talking with customer agent, there's all these different signals that we can collect on that user. It's like implied signal, right? So if the customer is saying, hey, this is a purchase for my wife or husband or my spouse, right, then we see this as a gift purchase. If this is something that is related to, questions about the ingredients, maybe there's some concern about some allergy or something related to what's inside the product. And all of these are signals that now customer agent can write as an AI onto the profile, like proposed attributes, right? And so yesterday, say customer agent or AI generally, you as the marketer had to be really opinionated about like what attributes you were collecting and for what purpose. And you would say, okay, I'm going to collect this. Here's a sign up form, and we got it through, through this promo email. So like, there's going to be some attribute that they're interested in. The obviously email opt-in, but plus this product that they might be interested in. These are clear attributes that you have decided to write onto the profile, so that that you can use downstream. You can start to segment by preferred product type, and then you'd say, okay, now I have 20 different segments that each have a different favorite product type, and I'm going to use those product as content in those messages, right? So you had this whole loop in your mind about like, what attributes am I going to author so that what marketing I could send. But in this new world where customer agent can, on its own, agentically start to propose attributes on the profile, you have this entirely new lens of possibilities for things that can be signals that come from that customer, right? And so all of a sudden, instead of the attributes that you've authored, now the AI has authored all of these potential attributes. You now have way more opportunity to do personalization, to do very bespoke automations for them. And where Composer kind of comes into play is that, just like I always tell people this story, I don't do a ton of writing every sentence these days. I use my, Claude to help me write a proposal or write some sort of guidance doc, some product spec doc. And yes, all of those ideas originate from me. But do I know exactly, the construction of every sentence in that doc? No, I don't. And similarly, what's going to happen is that profiles that are authored by the AI, the user, the marketer, may start to drift in terms of its understanding of everything that's in that profile. So what happens on the Composer side, the AI that helps you make sense of a complex marketing program generally, can now make sense of profile attributes that are now grown very large in size because customer agent is contributing. So it could say, for example, there's a 15% of your customer base actually do have ingredients-based questions. Maybe you should do a knowledge-based newsletter, 3 email series over the next week to learn about this ingredients list and how it's all natural in these products, right? And so that is signal that was created by customer agent, that was triaged and made sense of by Composer to help you build the marketing execution plan on the back end. And so ultimately what happens is that you have this sort of, feedback loop where you are collecting signal on the customer facing surfaces, triaging signal within Klaviyo and through Composer, and then you're doing output that pushes again customers to your site, and then you continue to learn. And now you start to see this picture of okay, let's assume that both customer agent and Composer do really good jobs. You can see a world where they start to do this stuff on their own. And you are really saying, okay, well, now I can focus on what products should we be focusing on for the next season? What are the sort of new promotional opportunities just generally? But you don't have to think super hard about segmentation, personalization, timing. These are all things that the system can start to experiment on your behalf. We all are waiting for it to get to that quality level, and once it does, it's going to be super interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You had said, right now you can look at, Composer can look at a set of attributes that are created and say, hey, 15% of your customers want to do X, Y, Z.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's even like and I think you'll agree with this. That's like the old way of looking at it, where you would say 15%. Oh, okay, it's 15%. That means it's
sure,
probably going to be valuable for me to go and do it,
sure,
but because it takes time to do it. But
sure.
now it can say, okay, 0.1% of your customers want to do this. And I created the email campaign for those 7 people. Do you want to send it? Boom, click send, and it sends it out. And then it does, because historically, as an agency, we're not going to go and do something like that because it might make the company, $30 extra a month.
Yeah.
But if you can have Composer and agent working together to give you 20, 30, 40, 50 of these a day, a week, then that $30 starts adding up. And
Yeah.
it gets that much more powerful because, everyone's always talking about personalization in digital marketing. And, this is actually going to be able to get us to those like one-to-one emails, like down the road when we're sending out campaigns, every single email could be unique to that specific person, what they've done before, how they've interacted, how they've spoken.
Yeah.
It could even be in their customer voice. If they've left reviews and if they've interacted with customer agent, then it could be specifically in their customer voice, using the words that they've used historically to give them a unique experience that talks to them how they talk.
Yeah, I mean the number of permutations is like general. It's just genuinely unlimited, right? So there's so many permutations just in the use case you described with email, right? Content, voice, tone, and then we can think also about timing, and then yes, the segmentation of a very small slice of people. But like for the part of the world that I used to be in, I'm still an owner of the campaign, the omni-channel campaigns product, right? So a lot of the thinking around that is also what is the relationship that people have across channels, right? The timing of when an email goes out is not the same as when a SMS or when they would engage with an SMS. So there's optimization both on like what channels that people prefer, what channels people prefer at what time, what order of channels do people would actually like rationally engage with if they would see as like an email alert as like more important that brings them to an email an SMS alert that brings them to an email or vice versa. And so there's all these permutations that we can be thinking about, and it would just be genuinely impossible for a human to actually do. Now, with this one-to-one personalization or just the ability for AI to manage this, it's actually possible. And the thing that I want to say that most people, or it might be hard to kind of fathom, but like the learning loop is really what the value is here. It's not that you get all this signal and then you output exactly the right thing. It's that you get all this signal and then you create a hypothesis about how it could work. And then you go another loop and you see if what worked and what didn't work. And the stuff that worked, you try it again. Stuff that didn't work, you try something different. And you can continue to do these loops until you've actually honed into a success path for a small set of customers, while the other set have yet to be figured out yet. And so now you've got like something that you call wins, and then something that you call like, I don't know, warms. And then you continue to loop until you have more and more wins, right? And as you get more people into your list, these are people that you haven't been warmed yet, right? And then you got to continue to loop through. So this whole like learning loop process is genuinely unlocked through AI in a way that just couldn't be possible for humans. And this is where the gains are coming from.
It's so exciting. The more I talk about it, the more I just nerd out on it. This example that we were just talking about, when is that coming? Like, when is that going to be a reality?
So first of all, there's some non-AI answers to this, right? I think obviously I'm biased. I work here at Klaviyo. It's a really exciting place to be. But Klaviyo has made some very strategic investments in these surfaces that are not specifically lifecycle marketing, right? So obviously we are invested in Composer and we're invested in all the products that we're familiar with, campaigns, flows, forms, et cetera. These are sort of standard like lifecycle retention marketing surfaces. But the real sort of innovation, besides, there's a lot of innovation in those cores, but it's in these other surfaces that Klaviyo is investing in, right? So customer agent, customer hub, these are things that live on the customer's website. So we can start to collect signal from there. Then there are other places like our social product, where you can start to collect information on users based on their opt-ins to different social influencers. Whether it comes from reviews or help desk, our product that allows people to file tickets, and we'll understand what are their concerns about the product. All of these are additional signals that add into this into the profile layer that allows you to do these learning loops. So there will be, in my opinion, the majority of e-com SaaS brands that will just not be able to do learning loops at the sort of fidelity that Klaviyo can, because they're just not invested in these other services. And so either they integrate with third parties and they have to kind of build some relationship there in order to share data, or they just like only can get learning loops from opens, clicks, conversions on just standard retention marketing signal, right? And so, sure, I mean, you could claim that that's personalization, but it's just going to be at a much, much lower fidelity than if you had all this other signal incoming. And so, when are we going to get there? For Klaviyo, I genuinely think that it's going to be soon. For the broader e-com market, like, I'm not so sure. But for Klaviyo, we have the infrastructure and investments in the right place, and I'm super excited to be able to kind of deliver on that vision.
I do not disagree with that at all. Klaviyo started talking about the D2C CRM. Klaviyo as a D2C CRM, and maybe like a year and a half ago was when they first started talking about it. And I remember when you guys first started talking about it, I remember thinking like, oh, there's no way I can talk about this. Like, this just doesn't make sense to me. And then, because I didn't know what was coming. And then you guys, marketing analytics, customer agent, customer hub, composer, and now it's Gatsby, K-Social, service, all of these products. Now it like really makes sense, where it really is the D2C CRM, where it's all of this unified data that's in one place. But it's more than just a CRM, right? Because it's this, you probably have better words for it than I do, but it's this system where all of the different data is able to learn from each other, and then you're able to come out with one cohesive strategy to be able to market to your customers where, when they want.
Yeah, and I think that's the dream. Like, if you tell me, right? You're an agency, you're trying to, effectively, pass along the value prop to your customers about what we're providing. But I think like the dream for somebody like you as an operator is to just have this like single source of truth to say, okay, I'm going to try to build this marketing program off of everything I know on this single profile that's collecting information on first party supported products, right? So that I can actually iterate on interesting strategy now, especially now with access to AI. So like, how do you think about it? How do you think about a dedicated, bespoke, in a first party KDP is what we call it, Klaviyo database, or versus like, other products that have a more scattered approach to their data?
I am such a big believer for e-com brands, and I talk to e-com brands all the time about this. I'm such a big believer that all of their marketing channels that are possible should be over on Klaviyo. It bewilders me when I see a company using Klaviyo for email and a different platform for SMS, for just countless reasons. But then also, if they have, and then same thing like with customer agent, like we're implementing a ton of customer agent, and because that just makes so much sense, right? If you're using, we used to use a separate customer agent tool before customer agent came out, and it was really cool. It was awesome when we first started building it out. But then when Klaviyo's customer agent came out, like just the idea that you could get all this data being written to the profiles, the power behind that is just amazing. And so it's, before, when we had customer agent, that not Klaviyo's, that it was essentially a chatbot. It was cool with customer service, it helped out for sure. But now customer agent, yeah, it does the customer service stuff, but that's not the exciting, that's not the sexy part. It's a shopping agent where you can link it to your flows, your automations, where you're able to set up upsells, cross sells. You can connect it with all the other apps that you're using, like your Smile Rewards app, so that you can pull rewards balances and then sync those into your flows, and then being able to surface that data through Customer Hub for personalization on the website. It's amazing what you're able to do. And I'd love to have like a real look behind the curtain to see like what Klaviyo has coming next, because I'm sure it's something that's even more mind blowing.
Well, I think by the way, really well said. I mean, there's so much excitement there around what we have for Customer Agent, which is still relatively young product, but has already been doing like amazing things in terms of being able to not only serve the sort of chat function, but also be able to lift the ceiling on the lifecycle marketing part. In terms of the question for what we have coming next, it's a really, really interesting time. So we currently, as of this podcast, we are in public beta for Composer. This is where a lot of I spend my time focusing on, and the next iterations of Composer are going to be super interesting. Right now, Composer is largely sort of like a conversational knowledge base. It knows everything about your account. It knows everything about how Klaviyo works, and then can give you guidance based on that. Some recommendations based on best practices and your account data to tell you, hey, these are things that you can probably work on that will make your program better. But it's really just conversational knowledge. The next thing that we're working on is actually having Composer be able to do actions on your behalf. So not only is it going to be able to say, okay, this is the next thing that I think you should work on, or this is the next opportunity that is probably a quick win for you, but instead of giving you instructions on how to actually do that thing, it will actually make a proposal for you. Kind of similar to what you might see like in a Google Doc when somebody gives you a suggestion. You can just accept it or reject it. Composer will do a very similar thing. It will say, hey, it seems like you have a logic problem here. Would you like me to fix that for you? Accept it or reject it, right? And so all of a sudden, this is sort of the precursor to agentic work, is like giving you a proposal that there's still a human in the loop, and then you still have the benefit of like learning more and then ultimately saying accepting or rejecting the guidance. So Composer starts to do actions for you, not just guidance. So in the nerdy way of saying it, is like it can write and not just read, right? And so that's going to be super exciting, and one of the things that we'll be shipping out very soon. There's a couple more things, but I'll stop there. Like, what do you think about that?
I think that's amazing. As an agency managing, and let me back up a little bit too. Composer's going to be making these suggestions. But in order to know whether or not you should be accepting or rejecting these suggestions, you still really need to know what you're doing, right? You need to understand, you need to understand the impact that these suggestions are going to have. The reason why I'm bringing that up is, I think a lot of people can be getting scared. Like if you're brand side and you're a Klaviyo manager, you can be getting scared because Klaviyo is going to be taking over the job. Or the Composer is taking over your job. That's not happening, because your context is still needed to know whether you should accept that or not. It's not going to be like a simple thing. Some of them may be, but that excites me a lot, right? So let's say we have our strategists open up their Klaviyo dashboards for the brands on a Monday morning, and Composer has surfaced the top 10 recommendations over the weekend, and our strategists go through each of their accounts that they manage, and they either accept or reject all of these things. Boom, maybe they made an extra $17 for this brand in a day. This brand they made $117. This one they made $1,000 extra just by going through and accepting or rejecting the recommendations that Klaviyo Composer is giving. I think it's going to be a humongous unlock, and it's going to be able to enable strategists, whether agency side or whether you're brand side, is going to be able to enable strategists to make the brands that they work for a lot more money, be doing more higher level work.
Yeah, so I mean that's 100% though what we're hoping for, and it's again as we talked about it a little bit a while ago about like just layering on context. Once you're able to provide like here are your bespoke opinions about how Klaviyo should work, how marketing should work, then the guidance for these recommendations become more bespoke and custom to you, and so you'll be much more likely to accept this guidance or these fixes or these new variants when it's like aligned to the things that you care about. So that's number one. I'll give you three. So we talked a little bit like in the beginning. I said I'll peek behind the curtain. So we got three things that I'd share. So that's number one. We actually call this one-click actions, which is the ability for Composer to act on its recommendations. And the second one is that at K London 6:30. This is when we did the public beta. We were able to create campaigns. Creating flows is already out to a certain percentage of customers, but it's going to be out to all customers very shortly. So you'll be able to do in a very similar way that you're saying using prompts to create campaigns, you'll be able to use natural language to create entire flows. And so you can say, help me build a welcome flow. Here are, the content that we want to share in each one. And that's a similar engine for the content generation for emails. Or we can say, here's the logic for delays, but of course, we'll give you guidance in Composer to say, here are best practices around creating these flows. But generating flows through natural language is going to be shipped really, really soon. So that's number two.
Just let me jump in on that one. That's also really exciting. It's exciting for us, but I think that'll also be really exciting for the Klaviyo sales team as well. We do tons of Klaviyo implementations. We do about 10 a month, and we work really closely with your guys' sales team. But oftentimes the clients, one of their biggest hesitancy to migrating over to Klaviyo is the action of building out all of their account. But now, and so they might not want to pay an extra fee to an agency to be able to build it out. So now the sales reps are going to be able to say, hey, okay, well, you can build out your Klaviyo account with Composer. I think that's going to be a big unlock for them that they should be super pumped about.
Yeah, there's a whole. I won't divert too much on this particular conversation, but there's a whole opportunity related to onboarding and getting people up to speed. They have an absolute zero account, has done nothing in it, and need to get something in there to get started. And Composer's ability to understand, okay, this is a zero account. We know some information about the customer. Here are normal things that we do for every brand to get them to like a good, healthy starting state. We now have the ability to have like basically a personal tutor or like a consultant next to you that knows exactly what status your account is at and what things that you need to do now and explain to you why it's important for you to turn this thing on. The onboarding process and getting started with Klaviyo is going to be better than ever, really, really soon.
Oh, and the deliverability and the warm up. I bet that's something that's coming, right? Composer to be able to use all the best practices, what it sees happening, and then to be able to just like automate the warm up or the deliverability fixes for a brand.
Just saying, even conceptually, it's like, hey, you're a new account. We need to warm you up. That's what this means. Here's how we do it. Here's your plan on how we can do this. Like, are you cool with this plan? Accept it, and we'll just like get going on it, right? Okay, so that's two. And then the third one, this one is just a little bit further out, but I'm really, really excited about this piece, and I wanted to share it with your audience, which is related to intelligence that's not specific to the chat. So right now, one of the main things or the primary surface that you engage with Composer is through chat. And the main space that you engage with AI through other products is through a chat. The thing with Klaviyo is that the intelligence or the ability or the opportunity to optimize and create new things is not really relegated to a chat. It's really about just like the core marketing product that is inside Klaviyo, like the UI that we give to you as a marketer. There's a whole bunch of opportunities to show you, hey, this flow needs an optimization. Here's the canvas highlighting some area around the logic that says that this is an issue with the logic. We can show you, of course, guidance today that happens inside chat. but there's a whole sort of digestion and understanding and going back and forth through chat, which is sort of a proxy to the actual thing you want to do. When we'll be able to take, because we of course own the Klaviyo UX, right? We'll be able to take the intelligence of Composer, the AI that we built, and distribute it across the app, whether it's inline in the table of flows or in Canvas of when you're building your form, or whether you're looking on reporting and you're trying to find some guidance. All of these little moments of intelligence now become first party in app. So it's not this is AI, I got to talk with it. This is Klaviyo's intelligence highlighting things to you at any time, right when you're sort of thinking about that thing.
That's awesome. Like, so you're building flows out, and you're doing, you could be setting something up in a certain way, and it's the Composer is surfacing directly right there.
Yeah, it's completely contextual. It's completely contextual. It understands exactly where you're at, and exactly knows like what step that it's describing to you. But just generally, there's all these sort of moments, anything between like, I don't know what this button does, to I'm not sure if this is the right configuration, to here's a welcome flow, a brand new welcome flow, and I want to have help understanding like each of the components of this thing. And so these are not, if you intuited or if you wanted a consultant or tutor to help you to fix this thing or understand this thing, it probably wouldn't be through an email that you write back and forth, right? You'd want this consultant to bring it up on screen and point and click and walk you through. That's what Composer is going to be able to do, because we own not only the intelligence, but we own the UX. And that's going to be a really big differentiator as we have people that use, let's say, Claude natively, and then they go into, they have Klaviyo MCP and they can get data out. You can definitely get a lot of intelligence and get reasoning there and get some like things that you want to action on through Claude. But there's going to be, once this is available, the experience of how Composer shows up in Klaviyo is going to be a meaningful difference between going through a sort of frontier LLM product.
And that's really going to be a moat around this as well for you guys. That's like but one of the moats.
Yeah, one of the moats. I mean, of course, we have the first party data. We understand what good marketing is through the brands that we that we service. But then, yes, like we are we're building the harness. We're building the opinion of how AI should be applied to marketing, and how it should also be applied to a UX surface for marketing. And so all these things combined is just going to be best in class experience for integration with AI. And in my opinion, it will actually, like, people will start to think about it not as AI. They'll just think about it as like, oh, you were supposed to give me this guidance and intelligence all the time. This is how I expect it to show up. And it's just going to be a naturally part of your sort of day-to-day working experience.
That's awesome. It's super exciting. Thanks for sharing all that. Gil, this happens every time that we talk. I feel like the time just flies by and we're just scratching the surface. But this was very exciting about sort of what's coming. And I'm going to have you back on the podcast in a couple of months to talk about some other things that are happening. No, I was going to say, before we hop off, I got a couple of rapid fire questions for you. Are you ready? One metric you think brands over index on?
This is a good question. I'm like, maybe we skip this one. I'm not the metrics guy, but
all right.
Yeah. Let's skip this one.
One tool outside of Klaviyo you love right now?
Outside of Klaviyo, I mean, it's got to be Claude. That one's easy. But if it wasn't Claude, it would be Whisperflow, which I mentioned earlier. I think that is like, I save hours a day on that app.
It's amazing. I use it as well. And at first I didn't understand, like people are all talking about it. And it's like, well, you have, the voice to text right inside of Claude, or you have right inside of GPT. Why do you need it? But then once you start using it, it's like, oh,
Yeah. There's something about it, auto, creating lists for you, numbered or bulleted lists, or taking away the sort of ums and ahs and sort of half thinking that you had and made it into actually a clear statement. It's hard to beat right now.
yeah. Gil, where can people follow what you're building?
So for Composer, which is, again, what I think about most of these days, there's klaviyo.com/composer. You can see all the latest updates there. We'll also be publishing very soon a sort of change log, because we're shipping genuinely. We're doing new releases basically every other day. So we'll also be shipping a change log there if you want to see the latest. And then if you want to follow me on LinkedIn, it's linkedin.com/Gilbert Hsu. And you can sort of hear about all my ramblings of what I learned and worked on at Klaviyo.
Awesome. Gil, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today.
Hey, Zach, appreciate it. And yeah, let's do this one again.
All right. Before we wrap up, if you're serious about growing your e-commerce brand, go grab a free revenue audit. We find the revenue you're leaving on the table. We'll analyze your store, marketing, retention channels to show you exactly where the biggest revenue opportunities are. It's completely free, and you'll walk away with a clear growth plan. Just go to klaviyo.com/ECD and book your audit today.